Come to order, and want to thank everybody for being here. Glad to be with my counterpart, Casey Carpenter from Dalton, Georgia. They make a lot of flooring products up there. You used to call it carpet, but not anymore. It's everything, right?
That's right.
But we're proud to be here. I mean, we're in, as I said, we're in the Holy Land when it comes to music, right here in this building. There's been a lot of history created here. And Larry Brumley, thank you for letting us be here. It's an amazing thing. I mean, if I'm trying not to get emotional, because look, Greg Allman and I, we got high together when I was a youngster. He just was never there, but I was. Oh yeah, I said something I shouldn't have, but I don't care. In fact, I've never cared. But I'm glad to be here with our Senate members and our House members. And if you don't mind, let's start by going down the row, and you start, Senator, first, and tell us who you are and where you're from and how excited you are about being part of this great committee.
Senator Sonia Halpern. I represent District 39, which is in the Atlanta area. I am so excited to be part of this committee because, one, I'm deeply passionate about the arts. Long before I got to the legislature, it's been work that I've done, and music makes the world go round. And so it's really exciting to be here today for this first meeting. And I'm really excited about the work that we're going to do to make sure that music continues to be a thriving industry and in our state.
And it's awfully bipartisan too, isn't it?
It is. Yes, it is. I mean, nobody, music is, everything to everybody, so.
And thank you, Russ is our
political at all.
technician here. Thank you, Russ.
Yes.
I apologize.
Madam Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everyone. I'm Gloria Butler. I'm the Minority Leader of the Senate Caucus, Senate Democratic Caucus, and I am thrilled as well to serve on this committee to learn more about the music of Georgia. I know we all that in this room must be music lovers, all kinds of music. I was just listening to Frank Sinatra in my car. I know that he didn't come from Georgia, but there's that station called Sinatra that plays all kinds of music by all kinds of musicians, and it's a really great station. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to serve. I made the request from you before the committee was ever approved, and so I'm thrilled to be serving.
Madam Leader, I think it's the power you have is why you're on this committee. I just happen
that's
to be
it.
here.
That must be it. What you think?
I think that's it.
That's it.
So I'm Russ Goodman. I represent the 8th Senate District down in South Georgia, Valdosta-Waycross area. And I, too, am just unbelievably excited to be here. I'm a huge music fan. And so to be here where the Allman Brothers recorded and Marshall Tucker and Charlie Daniels and everyone else, it's just really amazing. We have a rich musical heritage in Georgia, and I listened to the Allman Brothers all the way up here this morning from South Georgia, and I'm just excited. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to serve on this committee, to go back there and see all this history. And I was telling someone earlier, when Dickie Betts came out of retirement, I made my way to Macon and got to see him at the Macon City Auditorium, spent about 3 hours at Grant's Lounge, and had a big time. Unfortunately, that night, it got a little too late for me, and I went on to the room, and Dwayne Betts and Devin Allman came and played down there, and I missed that, so I hated that. But I'm extremely honored to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So I'm Tyler Paul Smith. I come from West Georgia, represent that area, and just to be a part of this committee is a thrill for me. Come from the music of those that have been involved in the country music industry heavily, just from my part of the state. It's tremendous to see not only our contributions, but the other parts of the state as well. I want to say I was listening to Sam and Dave some this morning from Ocilla, so anyhow, it's great to be here in the great city of Macon this morning.
I'm Lauren McDonald III. It's always fun following Tyler Paul Smith, and when he talks about country music, and you listen to how he talks. And we have to have in the State House, we have to have somebody to interpret everything he says. And I represent Forsyth County up Lake Lanier, Cumming, Georgia. Did a year tour here in Macon, Mr. Sosby, and I was a little too far from my house and had a little too much fun in Macon, so my parents moved me a little bit closer to Commerce, Georgia. As we all love music, I was rocking out to the cars, the song Drive this morning coming down, and all of a sudden I look at my rearview mirror, and Monroe's County Finest is right in my rearview mirror, touching bumpers with me, and so I backed it down a little bit, and he gave me a free pass, but music makes you go fast, so glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm Dexter Sharper, District 177, Valdosta. I've been in music my entire life. My parents, musicians, singers, my entire family, brothers and sisters. We play all the instruments pretty much, and I personally play keyboard, drums, and a little bass guitar. And you probably see me at the Capitol singing. Sometimes the speaker have me to sing. So I'm really excited to be here. We also have a record label and production company in Valdosta, and also a teaching school where we work with a lot of the kids and adults, teach them how to sing, how to play instruments. And we also especially work with special needs kids and autistic kids. And we really try to, give them something to do and give them a talent to work with. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to doing what we can do with this committee and furthering what we're doing in the state of Georgia. In the tourism side, also developing more students within the schools to be a part of this industry for the future.
Like Chairman Mullis said, my name's Casey Carpenter. I represent Dalton, Whitfield County. We're the carpet capital of the world, but I do have a huge, huge passion for music. I was jamming out to 97.1 The River this morning on my way down, so I got a little 80s at 8, et cetera. But yeah, I like all ranges of music, rap music, country music, you name it. I listen to it and enjoy it, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do to help cultivate this industry and really peacock our feathers, if you will, of the great state, the musicians that we have and hopefully will have to show the world that Georgia means business for music as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And our mission is to kind of, after COVID, to see what's happening in the industry, see what we can do. We have some incentives that are kind of stagnant. We need to see how we can bolster those and make sure the industry is vibrant in the state of Georgia. I'd also like to mention my brother Jerry is here. He's younger, and we just got him out of the home recently, so we're glad to have you here, Jerry. And the music instrument I play is the radio. I'm real good at that, getting the right channel. Oh, come on, that was a little bit of a joke. But anyway, thank you for being here. Do you want to call her first? I'm going to thank everybody at the end that's put all this together. Marlon and Brian.
Right here.
Right there.
All right, Alex Morrison, come on down.
Alex, state your name and who you are and what you do and how glad you are being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, and the committee. My name is Alex Morrison. I have a long title. I'm the Director of Planning and Public Spaces for the Macon-Bibb County Consolidated Government and the Executive Director of the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority.
You get all that on a business card?
It's a billboard. Sorry.
Exactly. And I'm here on behalf of Mayor Lester Miller. He unfortunately could not be here today. He is attending GMA's policy committee. It's his first meeting, but he very much sends his regards to us. I am very thrilled to be here because, as you might imagine, I walked up with headphones, a giant Basement Eats sticker on my water bottle. I am very much a lover of music and how it unites us as a people. As several of you mentioned, there are few things that unite us in the human condition as much as our connection to music. It's an art form that almost everyone can understand. Even those who might have difficulty hearing can still appreciate music at some level because of the euphonious nature of it. I am a nearly lifelong Georgian. I was born in New Orleans, but then came here when I was 2, so please don't hold that against me. And really came to appreciate Georgia's music history in a robust way when I came to Macon in 2003 to attend Mercer University. I spent 2 years in Athens, also please don't hold that against me, and came back here to work in Macon to work on public projects in the economic development sphere. We in Macon have a long history of planning for people, centralizing the people who make up the place in our plans, and then turning that back over to the people to implement said plans. Our College Hill Corridor Plan, which was a student project I worked on back at Mercer, and our Macon Action Plan are two examples nationwide of community-driven plans that work. Both of those plans have a unique feature that they talk about the vibe and the rhythm at which community development work happens. And those words are things that actually come from music. The importance of being on the same sheet of music, the importance of singing the same song, and having the same set of lyrics about your community, your state, and where you're going as a group of people, what you value. All of that comes from our ability to plan with and for people. As you might imagine, for Macon-Bibb County, that means a lot of music-based projects. So the building that you're in now was something that was done with a lot of community collaboration and a lot of public demand. So several different partners over the years had a large role in saving this property, and you'll hear more about that story later. You'll also hear about our plans to imbue more music into the public sphere, having parks that are well-designed for people to have impromptu concerts as well as program concerts. Macon is a community that celebrated its centennial by building the City Auditorium, which is a grand ornate hall that is engineered for music and has just had a $10 million facelift, so hopefully you'll be seeing Allman Brothers or Allman's Family Band, Dwayne and Devin playing there more frequently in the future. It's a building that has had the stage of Otis Redding, Little Richard, the Allman Brothers, and several heroes in recent years. But the fact that on the 100-year anniversary of us being a city, the one thing the community said was, we want to build a music venue. It's only coincidental that now, on our 200th year, this community has galvanized again around building a signature amphitheater at our Macon Mall site. The amphitheater is going to be a roughly $40 million facility, 10,000 seats, and it's lovingly nestled between highways 80 and 74. So it'll have lots of parking, lots of access, and it's in the direct center of our county. So telling everybody this is a vital part of our community and where we're heading as a community. We feel like this is an important project because, again, it speaks to who we are as Macon, as a people, and that we feel like this music venue, much like it did 100 years ago for the City Auditorium, can drive economic and community development in a new way. So the Macon Mall has fallen in disrepair. The community around it has begged and pleaded for some type of investment. And by using an amphitheater and also locating government offices in the mall site, we're telling the citizens of that community that the public sector is putting in a large investment there in a place that's already designed to bring people together. And we feel like that will be a large economic development project for us. But again, it comes back to who we are as Macon and who we are as a people, which is singing that song of the music heritage that comes with it. Without the stories that we have, without facilities like Capricorn, Mayor Miller and the commission would not be as invested in making a music facility a key piece of where we're going as our economy expands. We have seen this time and time again, that when we focus on the things that unite us, we have a lot more success. We've seen this in several other communities as well. We visited Huntsville prior to embarking on our amphitheater quest. If you've seen it, they recently opened the Orion Amphitheater there, and it has been a huge driver for economic development there. We feel like it is something that we're going to be able to replicate here, but in a better way because we have better transportation infrastructure. Just saying. Thank you. And when we keep getting asked, well, what could make it better? What can make becoming a musician in our community better? You're going to hear from several of my colleagues and friends later about local efforts that we've had to make the arts and specifically music a more integrated part of our economic development scheme. But of course, the arts are also good because they are good. They are good because they bring us together, and what brings us together tends to also make us more money. But I do think there are things that y'all are looking into that could help us. I think the better understanding of incentives that are available, providing similar incentives for music as filming might allow people to stay here and really harp on the fact that Macon, and specifically, but the state of Georgia is a great place that churns out lots and lots of records. People love to talk about how they've recorded in Studio A in Nashville. You'll hear about specific rooms that they've recorded in, but having the State Office of Economic Development and others amplify that could be something that would make Georgia more competitive in that space and create more music tourism as a byproduct of that. We feel like there's opportunities for state incentives that could really help musicians have a better time becoming full-time musicians, which is important. You have a lot of folks who are gig musicians who don't feel like they can making music and owning their own distribution, having concerts be a vital part of that, and the state can create those avenues for us and some clear, bright lines for how that could happen. So again, in Macon, we hope we can be an example for the rest of the state in how we use the arts and music as a key part of what we do to grow our economy, to bring people together, and implement the plans that we create as a community. And as Mayor Miller always likes to say, this is a great day to be in Macon-Bibb County. We thank you for coming, and because of the work that y'all are doing, a lot of the work that's happening here in this building, we know that our most musical days are still ahead of us, not just in the past. And I'll stand for any questions if you have them.
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So the amphitheater project, you said 10,000 seats. What's the ticket price on that? Is it a public-private partnership on that, or how's that shaking loose?
So the Urban Development Authority, my agency, will be the owner of the facility, and we have hired OBG 360 to manage that facility. They also run our Coliseum and City Auditorium. And while it will be a public-private partnership in that the amphitheater operation will be underwritten by the community, we still anticipate that it will be a going concern. We anticipate that the revenues from that facility will pay down the debt that has been issued to build the facility. And ticket prices will be market-driven.
No, I apologize. So the construction ticket price.
Oh,
what's the
okay.
bond? How much did you guys bond out?
So we issued a total of $44 million in bonds, but that is for both the mall redevelopment, putting the government offices in the mall, a pickleball facility in the mall, as well as building the auditorium. So we're anticipating it being about a $40 million facility all in.
Now, Representative Carpenter is a pickleball champion, I believe. Right?
Ninja is actually the correct word.
I mean, that's also on my bottle, so
Yeah.
kindred spirit.
Well, look, Mr. Chairman, our incentives are really out there. However, I don't think they're very well known, and we hope to get them off their feet. You know, it all started back with some musician named Chuck Lavelle talked to me and said, you know, we need to do something to keep our musicians here and so forth. So we actually put a pretty good package together with the Convention Center of Macon being part of our thought package. You know, that it stands vacant most of the year, and we want it to be used for big concerts to kind of develop their stage set, their routine, and use that places like that for creating that. and then to start their concerts here in the state of Georgia and have incentives for that, and then, of course, recording. Because nowadays, you don't make any money on records or CDs or all that, do you, Chuck? Yeah, it's on touring. So, and we have some people that are part of that, Molly and Brian and others that kind of helped us move that along. So hopefully we'll get that moving.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Cheers.
We're fortunate to have Steve Moretti. Did I say that right? I'm from Chickamauga. We don't have names like that. As CEO of Macon Pops, we're certainly glad to have you, and a musician too. Musician. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you all for allowing me to be here. I appreciate all your work that you're doing, because we are all for the common goal. And as you mentioned, music is the universal language. And, you know, this facility is incredible. And going back to your Seriously Sinatra, there's some material that's been recorded here that will be on that station. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you all for being here today. My name is Steve Moretti. I'm a drummer, percussionist, and a producer, and I do travel extensively nationally and internationally performing and recording. I normally, pre-COVID, fly about 130,000+ miles a year, but I'm based here in Macon. I'm a member of the Recording Academy and have served 3 terms as a Board of Governor for the Atlanta chapter, and I've also served on the board of the Otis Redding Foundation here in Macon. I've been blessed to earn 2 Grammy nominations, a Juno nomination, which is the Canada Grammy equivalent, and have won 2 Telly Awards for music production and sound design. I moved here in Macon 16 years ago because my wife, who's a classical and concert violinist and former concertmaster of a couple of different orchestras, was asked to run the Robert McDuffie Center for Strings here at Mercer University. So we're both on the road quite a bit, performing on big stages, part of major concert series, festivals, recordings, etc., representing Macon and Georgia to the best of our ability. We are also doing our best to bring our connections and networks here to Macon. Amy is the artistic director and curates the Fabian Concert Series, which she started 16 years ago. Her series attracts internationally renowned artists that perform here and mentor her students at the McDuffie Center. And she also curates and organizes all of the Macon Mercer Symphony concerts, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. But I am also co-founder, president, and CEO of a nonprofit organization entitled Macon Pops. It's an innovative orchestra which is celebrating its 10th season. And actually, Mr. Chuck Lavelle is going to be part of our gala next week, is commemorating that milestone. So we're very grateful for that. I started Macon Pops with a gentleman that I've been drumming with for 25 years, excuse me. His name is Matt Cattengoop. He's a Grammy award-winning composer, arranger. He wrote some music and arrangements for the movie Good Night and Good Luck that George Clooney put out. So, you know, bringing him into town and getting to do what we love we're normally guest artists with symphony orchestras around the country, with orchestras like Atlanta Symphony and Long Beach and Buffalo, and so we'll travel around and our guest artists on their pop series. But we wanted to take it a step further and create something unique here in Macon. So I wanted to bring that here, and Macon Pops is a little different in that we have a 40-piece orchestra that's handpicked by me. All of our programs are handcrafted, meaning that Matt writes every single arrangement for each of our shows. So which means nobody's doing the way we're doing it because of these unique arrangements. And that's what makes us unique. The other thing that makes us unique is we don't have multiple rehearsals. So our musicians show up the day of the concert, and we run our show during the sound check, and then we perform the concert. So we really have to have the top talent, which we have here in the state of Georgia and in Macon. And that wouldn't be possible without the kind of quality musicians that we have. And we're also changing the concert experience by incorporating dance floors and food and bars. We also create different concert experiences by performing in many venues around Macon, both inside and outside. Our slogan says it all: Macon Pops is not just a concert, it's an event. And, you know, Macon Pops is another beacon that draws folks from your district, you know, to Macon to see world-class music, spending the night in our hotels, eating in our restaurants, driving our local economy, and exploring all the rich cultural activities in our town. And as a business owner, I employ over 40 musicians, a production staff, and an assistant. Music is such an inherent part of our lives that we often don't realize. We don't realize it. It's in movies, commercials, video games, schools, churches. And you know, it will unlock emotional experiences. I mean, you were driving up the road here, and I'm sure when you're listening to one of your favorite tracks, it takes you back to a memory. You know, music is that common language that we so often realize, but I think sometimes we lose sight of that. So it's just kind of neat to hear you all be so passionate about when you're listening. So, you know, one of our crown jewels in Macon is providing the music for a downtown Christmas lights display of over 800,000 lights that are synchronized to our music. We kicked this annual event off the day after Thanksgiving with a live concert synchronized to the lights. So think about that. So we've created all these arrangements featuring local talent. We have wonderful talent here in Macon, and it's our job to be a platform for those people to be heard. And so we had the idea of creating these original arrangements because the lights could be synchronized to canned music, which would be great, but what would take it a step further and really tying everything back to Macon, and not only the rich music history we have, but the presence that we have right now. And so we kick it off with that concert, and right before COVID, we had 25,000 people down the street, which is incredible. So the Christmas Light Show Extravaganza, it runs 7 days a week after that. There are 4 shows a night, 6, 7, 8, and 9, that are automated. So the lights go out, and it's like Disneyland. The music comes on, and then it's my annoying voice and Matt's annoying voice kind of narrating the show for you. We had 827,640 people come through Macon in the 5 weeks that the show runs. So it runs the day after Thanksgiving to the first Saturday in January. 827,640 people. This is according to the CVB, which I just, our Visit Macon, I just got these numbers recently. And they spent roughly $5 million in Macon, just coming to see some Christmas lights, and eating some food, and patronizing our businesses. So it's pretty awesome. Another major component of Macon Pop's mission is to bring together a wide demographic, cultivating future art supporters who might not have been interested in the arts, or for whatever reason feel a barrier that society's put up, especially with orchestra musicians. So that's really been a big part of that, and I think we've been pretty successful garnering younger people to what we do. And my hope is that they'll be inspired to get in our community further, exploring the diverse arts culture in Macon, from the Macon Mercer Symphony. There's wonderful concerts at the Townsend School of Music, the Robert McDuffie Center for Strings, and productions from Theater Macon, Macon Little Theater, and all the various concert series we have around town. All of these generate income for our local economy, so music is economic development. And while musicians are often considered an artist, it's important, I think, for everyone to know that we're also a business. Like most musicians, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the epitome of a small business. And another interesting fact, behind every song that you hear on the radio, there are hundreds of people that wrote, produced, managed, and promoted that song. And the same goes for live music and bigger shows, like the arena shows. That number jumps. Arena shows hire thousands of people, and for every dollar that goes into a live show, it's $12 back to the community. That's pretty significant. In addition to running a nonprofit, I own a production company and a recording studio where I record drums for clients. I edit, mix, and master projects for clients worldwide. I'm also involved in producing live recording projects. Some of them have aired on PBS and are broadcast on Performance Today. I know we have a rich music history here in Macon. That must be honored and respected, but I also want to create a new chapter in that history book. We need to focus our efforts on the present and the future. In the 16 years I've been in Macon, I've seen the tremendous growth happening in the music and film industry all over our state. I actually had the privilege of being on set with Clint Eastwood several years ago in LA, performing live on camera for the movie Jersey Boys. So I'm in the closing scene there. And when they said action, they recorded us playing live. And they sang, they went back in the studio and recut their vocals, but everybody was performing live, which was a pretty neat experience. But we had a long break with Clint, and so we were all talking to him, and he's a huge music lover, piano player. And at that time, he had filmed Trouble with the Curve here in Georgia. And so I told him I was from Macon because I remember seeing them film here. And he said he wouldn't have been able to do that production had it not been for the tax incentives. So I thought that was kind of neat. But, they're limited to cities that are within short, so the companies here, the film companies, are limited to cities that are within a short distance from the local union, and that's why there's less production outside of Atlanta. This is not the case with music. It can be and is recorded, produced, written in every county of our state. So we're asking for focus, support, and strategic partnership with the state to help grow opportunities and investment. It will yield incredible results, jobs, economic impact all around the state. We have an opportunity to grow this area immensely by making sure film companies not only shoot the productions here, but finish their films as well. By that I mean all the post-production needs that make a film complete: editing, green screening, dialogue replacement, CGI, set design, etc. That includes scoring the music, which is something I'm deeply passionate about. Musicians of Macon Pops will benefit from an opportunity to work on soundtrack scores in studios. They'd be able to hire graduates of Mercer and Middle Georgia State University as well, too, to be a part of that process. Another crucial component is the implementation of a dedicated entertainment office. We have an opportunity to have a crew base out of Macon that could live, work, and spend their hard-earned money here by renting homes, purchasing homes, putting their kids in our schools, eating in our restaurants, shopping locally, and attending concerts here. Oklahoma Entertainment Office promotes its music talent studios, and when productions are scouting there, they have a dedicated music office and staff that has brought soundtrack and scoring work along with the film. Another major study from IFPI and Music Canada, The Mastering of a Music City, looked at cities worldwide from Europe, Australia, Canada, and the US. One of the 7 key elements in that study was underscoring the implementation of a music office. This is not currently happening in Georgia. There's no music office, and the focus from film office has solely been on production. If we track post-production, we can not only add thousands of new jobs, but we will create a sustainable industry. The Georgia Music Investment Act, which expires in January, needs to fall in line with the film and digital entertainment. Both have been in place for a decade and have transferability and little to no threshold. Georgia's music community has been engaged and clear. Keep the sunset and thresholds in place, but give the credit a chance to bring music production investments to the state. By lowering the threshold so more people can take advantage of it, which will spur more activity and economic impact, making Georgia the #1 place for music business as well. And that's something Macon Pops would be able to take advantage of. I spend about $50,000 a concert to put it on, so I don't reach that threshold yet. But we're a nonprofit, so that threshold would certainly help us out. Research from Oxford Economics affirms that live music and entertainment industry generates significant economic impact in Georgia, with a total economic impact of $2.7 billion in 2019. This total impact supported 24,124 jobs and generated $113 million in total state and local tax revenues. So my hope is I hope we can continue to work together to market and support all of our ever-growing assets that Macon and Georgia has, so we can all reap the benefits of culturally enriching our communities and generating a long-sustaining economic impact. Thank you all for allowing me to speak, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
Anybody have any questions? Senator Goodman?
I was just going to ask, I'm kind of a music tourist myself. Every year when we, thank you. Every year when I'm a blueberry farmer, every year when we get finished gathering our crop, I've got a '66 Impala Super Sport convertible, and I strike out with a buddy, and we drive to Clarksdale, Mississippi, which is the Ground Zero Blues Club. And of course, we rent a room above there, and you know the history of Robert Johnson and Clarksdale. And then the next day we go into Memphis, check in at the Westin on Beale Street, and go to Stack Studios and Sun Studios and Memphis Rock and Soul Museum and
Rendezvous Barbecue.
Rendezvous Barbecue, you know. And so I completely understand what you're talking about, of how big of an economic driver music can be, because I do it every year. I can put about 8 pounds on you in about 4 days in Memphis. But I think that,
Graceland or anything like that?
oh yeah, we do the VIP tour at Graceland. So I'm number one Elvis fan, but number 2 is Allman Brothers. So, and number 3 is all of the, you know, Otis Redding and everything. That's some of the best music that was ever made in history in the 60s and 70s. And of course Stax. I'm sure you're familiar with Stax, but
Is there a question here, Senator?
yeah, there is. My question is like, you take Macon, you know, you got Memphis that is a hub throughout the country for music. Has there ever been an effort to try to develop a Beale Street type venue in Macon where people can come and do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that we have great music heritage here, but I'm not sure that we've got the access that we should have. And that's, I guess, part of what we're trying to figure out. You know.
Yeah, well, specifically with that, I mean, there's that, I don't know if I can answer directly, but I can say there's been a huge effort to put Macon on that music tourist map. And I think which is like what Alex was talking about, what we've done here at Capricorn, There's a lot of effort that the city has gotten behind because they know the impact of music, and they know we have not only incredible local talent, but we have an incredible history. And I know the Big House there's an effort to get people to be part of that trifecta, if you will, the triangle, right, of Memphis, Nashville, Macon. I think everyone has that same goal in mind, but specifically creating sort of a Beale Street thing. I think there's probably more city of people that have much more smarts and a higher pay grade than me that can probably answer that question better. But I do know there's been an enormous effort on everyone to continue to drive outside folks to come to Macon and become a music tourist destination.
Anyone else?
Quickly, you mentioned, your company, Macon Pops, and the staff, but I'm wondering if you guys do artist development, for one, helping people, make their crafts better, and do you reach out to possibly local high schools and middle schools to kind of get an idea of future people that
We
are
do,
serious?
yes. So I'm busing in 40 kids to our November 18th concert to come and see our rehearsals. We have what's called MP Love of Music. It's a program, an education initiative that we were really launching right before COVID. So now we're just kind of getting it back. But what we do is we invite kids from all the schools, in both private and public. They can come to one of our rehearsals so they can see that what we do the day of a concert. So they see how we run the show, dial in our sound and production, and then depending on the venue, they'll get to come to the concert for free. And then beyond that, we'll have a Q&A afterwards, so they can ask myself, Matt, my co-founder, and some of our key musicians specific questions that they may have in music. And then we are also going into the schools. I just had a meeting with the head of our arts in Bibb County by the name of Ben Bridges. And so we're going to be going into the schools, specifically one of the jazz programs at Howard. So Matt and I will do an hour clinic / masterclass. So we'll listen to them perform and give them some feedback. And then at some point in time, one of our goals too is to do a side-by-side. So we'll extract a couple of key players and have them perform a number or two side-by-side with Macon Pops. With artist development, that's something my production company specifically does, where I will work with artists and help them. It's not something that Macon Pops necessarily does in terms of, singer-songwriter type of stuff, but we are certainly a platform, and we've taken local artists, and they've had their original material scored with a 40-piece orchestra and performed live in front of our community. So there's definitely a partnership with the community in that respect.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I
Thank-
got
go
two
ahead. Yes,
questions,
sir.
just a quick one. I just real interested in the Christmas light synchronization show. So, you say the day, Friday after Thanksgiving. Is it outside, inside?
Outside.
Outside.
Yeah, so the lights run about 4.5 city blocks.
Okay.
So we're Poplar Street here, it comes to MLK.
Right.
So it goes all the way up to First Street.
Okay.
And then on Third Street, it goes over one block to Cherry, and I think they're expanding the opposite block if they can get it done in time. So all of those, it's all outside. Everything is
Right.
completely outside. So our stage is positioned right in the center of the intersection by the government building
Okay,
on
cool.
First Street and Poplar, right by the Macon City Auditorium,
And
actually.
you do that 7 days a week?
No, the live concert's just to kick it off.
Oh, I was about to say, man, that's fantastic.
No, I wish.
Y'all are all in, baby.
I wish we could. That'd be awesome.
What are you doing the next 35 days of your life? That's pretty cool.
That'd be a great gig.
So the Friday night's the kickoff.
That's the
is when
kickoff.
you
So
do it.
so we'll do our show from 6 to 7:30, and then the canned shows are then go at 8 and 9. But then after that, it's 7 days a week, 6, 7, 8, and 9 o'clock. And they're two separate sets of music. So the 6 and 8 o'clock are one set of music, and the 7 and the 9 are another set. So it keeps people downtown. And we also have it broadcast on the radio, so folks can drive around and also listen and watch as well too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, good stuff. I
Yeah.
like that.
Okay, thank you so much. for
Thank you all
being
very
with
much.
us.
Appreciate it.
We're happy to have Executive Director of Macon's Arts Alliance, Julie Wilkerson. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank y'all for coming here. As he said, I am Julie Wilkerson. I'm the Executive Director of Macon Arts Alliance. Macon Arts Alliance is the designated arts agency for Macon-Bibb County and has been since 1984, which sadly is 40 years ago, not 20 like we all think it was. We're, just a little bit about us, we're mostly privately funded, but we do receive about 8% of our budget from the hotel motel tax here in Macon. So we have a vested interest in tourism doing well, and especially cultural tourism. And I want to reiterate what Steve and Alex said and what the senator said as well about art being a unifier. That really is the framework around which Macon Arts Alliance operates, not just music, but all art, as something that connects people and brings us together. And really, since the pandemic, a focus on how that connection can create compassion, because we feel like a more compassionate world not only is needed, but helps us all be better people and better, stronger communities, and also then more successful economically. About in 2020, July of 2020, we completed the cultural plan for Macon. So we spent a year with global consultants, Lord Cultural Resources, who came down and created a county-wide plan to increase access and impact of arts and culture in Macon-Bibb County. And they came up with 5 strategic priorities: tourism, education, creative industries, neighborhood development, and audience cultivation. And music was woven throughout all of those priorities. So certainly the tourism strategic priority spoke a lot to music and Macon's music. And to answer your question, there were a lot of suggestions in there of, we need a music district, we need a music commission, we need a music cultural officer. And after the study was completed and Macon Arts Alliance thought about, did we really want to spend another year doing a plan? But Macon is a plan, we have a lot of plans, right? But that's a great thing because it informs decisions and it puts everyone on the same page to have those plans. We raised the funds and we partnered up with Gary Wheat at Visit Macon and Larry Brumley here at Capricorn, and we hired Sound Diplomacy. They're a global music consulting firm to do a music plan, because we didn't want to just say we're going to create a Beale Street, right? Or just say we're going to create a music commission or hire a cultural officer without knowing where we needed to go. So we did that about 6 months ago, and just this week we received the first draft of the phase 1 of the plan. And it's great. It goes a lot into, here's where they came down and did some roundtables with artists and music professionals and music fans. They did some one-on-one interviews with important stakeholders, and then they also had a community survey. So it's a lot of, here's the number and amount of professional musicians making all of their money in their craft. Here are semi-professional musicians who supplement their income with another job. And then this is how many amateur musicians who generally don't get paid for what they're doing. Macon, what we found, like I said, it's new, fresh this week. Macon has a lot of venues, only second to New Orleans as far as venues, but only 7% of those venues are dedicated live music venues. So that's going to have an impact on quality and performance, and so we got to figure out what that means and how to work with that. Also, the drop in income from 2019 to 2020, it's coming back. They're doing better. It's coming back, but they're not back to where they were in 2019. So part of what the phase 2 of the plan will do will give us a roadmap for recovery for music as well. And we feel like that's very, very important. We also found that we have a lot of artists, we have a lot of venues, we're missing a lot of the in-between stuff. We have a lot of booking agents. So our artists have places to go record, but they're missing a lot of music business education, and that's making us lack in music business professionals as well. So Mercer is stepping in. We just had this conversation with Larry right when we got the findings to create some classes at the university for that. Capricorn can serve that purpose. And there are other, we can talk to the technical schools, a lot of ways to fill those gaps. But because we've just completed phase 1 of the plan or the study, what we have are the findings. Phase 2 is the actual recommendations, and the economic impact. So I can't tell you what we need to do about it exactly right now. In about 9 months, I'll come back to you, or you can see the plan, and then you'll see actually what they come up with as far as what they can do. The main thing to realize about the plan, The entire plan is about $120,000. It's an investment that we feel like is going to come back, multifold, because it will give us a blueprint and a roadmap for economic recovery of the music sector, but also growth of the music sector as far as tourism, but also nurturing local talent. And for me, for the Arts Alliance, the neighborhood development portion of our plan is very important to us. So how can art and creativity and music be used to just solve some community problems? We've been able to leverage some of the Macon violence prevention money, which came from rescue plan dollars, to have some creative intervention programs in after schools and in camps. So there's so much that music can do outside of just tourism that also has an economic impact, because it can help solve some community problems as well. So that is the music plan and why it was important. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit. I know Carla Redding couldn't be here, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Otis Redding Foundation. Justin Andrews, Carla's son, is on our board, and he's fantastic, and Carla is fantastic, and it also answers your question a little bit as well. They have been working, I don't know if you've been at Somewhere to Go, their office is on Cotton Avenue, out of a small office, small front parts, a small museum, and then they do their Camp Dream during fall camp and in the summer, and they've been using Mercer. And I went and visited, it might have even been in 2020, and they use every room. So many kids. I have a nephew who went through the program all through high school. He now works for a big music agency in Nashville, doing what he loves to do. All of that, all of those connections, all of his training came from what he learned from the Otis Redding Foundation camps. So they have got the funding to build the Otis Redding Center for the Arts. It's going to be right across from Hotel 45. They're going to have a 300-seat amphitheater, so that they'll have a stage that can perform to the amphitheater, so that the youth who are there can learn to sing. They will also learn some music business and some recording talent and some recording and other important things to do that aren't just singing if they can't sing, and then also have opportunity to perform, which is very important as well. So they really fill a need, and one of the things that the study pointed out is that the majority of our music education in schools is choir, chorus, and band, right? And that's important. Music is good. It helps you learn, but that's not enough diversity in music education. So they are really filling a large need for us in our community. And then they're also bringing attention to Macon for what they do. And just as I appreciate Bobby McDuffie for bringing his conservatory here to Macon, he could have put it anywhere, right? But he did it here. I appreciate the Otis Redding Foundation for having their Center for the Arts here in Macon, because they could have it anywhere as well, too. I'm always appreciative when someone does something great for their hometown, and that's appreciative. And then I also want to mention, Steve mentioned it a little bit too, about a music commission, because that certainly came up as what if, do we need one? Do we need an officer? The cultural plan called for a cultural officer. I've been working on the mayor about that. We've got some other priorities. We know we need one. I know that this music plan is also going to call for some sort of music officer. I think this cultural officer for a town our size can probably start out being the same thing. But I am such a fan of somebody who wakes up every day and all they think about, it's what they have to think about. And if there is a person or an entity that all they're thinking about is how can we grow music in Georgia, it's gonna grow a lot more than people doing it on the side. This committee is a great start, right? Because somebody's saying, hey, music's important and it can be more important, and y'all are all the choir, right? So, but somebody whose job it is every day that gets up and says, okay, it's my job or our job to grow music in Georgia. How can we do that? We know, music and film are so different. I mean, I know why people are comparing them with tax incentives, but they really are different in a lot of ways. But the whole Camera Ready community program has tremendously helped film production in Macon. And then I was president of the film festival when the film commission lived under the festival, which was an all-volunteer organization. So we had 2 volunteers who were doing all the film commission work in Macon-Bibb County. And then we transitioned it to Visit Macon, where there's a paid person who is the person who, and it's his job, you know, to answer the phone and what has happened in the production that has happened since then has been astronomical. And it's because there's someone whose job it is to think about that and do that and respond to that every day. So I really think that some sort of position, in whether it's a commission of people or it's a person whose job it is to think about growing music, can only be a good thing.
And you're talking about locally.
Well, I'm also talking about on the
Oh,
state
yeah,
level.
we agree.
Yeah,
In
right.
fact, the Senate side has put it in and the House side took it out.
Well, you know.
And I'm not gonna mention Penny Housen's name, but anyway. So we hope we can reestablish that.
Right.
do the
And
exact-
even if it's, and I know there's a, even if it's a person, you know, as opposed to an entity, I think Lee Thomas is still the
Yes.
film person. And she was there before the boom, right? And she's lived through it and brought it. But it's her job every day to get up and think about film in Georgia.
Now,
And,
you mentioned something interesting to me. You said camera ready. So what would we call a city that has
maybe are we sound ready?
sound ready or
Mic
song ready?
ready.
Tone ready.
Mic ready.
Mic ready? Yeah, open mic,
that's a
open
good
mic, maybe
idea.
we're open mic. Yeah, so maybe some program similar to Camera Ready where,
Communities have a target. kind of
well,
thing.
and then also there's a list, there's a person, so that would also make this person important in Bibb County, because the thing about Camera Ready is that the Georgia Film Commission has one single person in each of those camera-ready counties where they send people and talk to them, so it streamlines the process. And then the other thing is a list of resources. Because we're camera-ready, then our resources are listed with them and they know location things, so maybe there's a list of recording studios and talent and all of that as well.
That's a good idea. And does anybody have a question? Yes, sir.
Responding back to what you're talking about, but whether it's a individual or entity, I think what we miss sometimes is we have a lot of talent, and that person can actually network everybody together for one common goal. And that's what's gonna be important. And when I think of Macon and some other cities, you have the old school way of doing things, you know, the regular, it's streaming now. Okay,
Right.
a lot of things is streaming. So I think if Macon and others that are more on the old school side of things can partner with the youth, which is the new school, between social media and all these different things that you can tie in together, that's our strength. If we can tie in those new talents with the old talents and get what we need, I think we'll be in a better situation and it can spread more, because now you have, when you used to have to try to get a record label to put you out there and all that, now a kid can get on social media with their talent.
Right.
And become an overnight success in a sense, but at the same time, they can become an overnight success, but if they don't have that education as their foundation, it's not gonna last as long. So I just think the effort should be include the young people, because there's so much talent out there that's
Yes.
being wasted. And if you can horn on that, I think we'll be in a better position.
And they know it as
Yeah.
better than we do, right? In fact, I think that's how Billie Eilish started. She just was internet, right?
Right.
You don't have to do all that stuff anymore. But they gotta learn how to manage it. I mean, that's,
TikTok, baby, TikTok.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, change the world.
I'm too old for that.
Oh, no, you're just getting started.
Any other questions? Anybody? Hey, thank you for the passion, and our previous speakers too. I think that's what drives all this, so thank you.
All right, Miss Lisa Love, come on down, Georgia Music Foundation. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the
She-
opportunity.
She's been brought up by the good graces of my friend Bo Henry.
That's one of the things.
She's got the right shirt on today.
Yeah, the irony of that is my husband is in a Marshall Tucker band, but I don't own one of their shirts.
Uh-oh. Hint, hint.
My name is Lisa Love, and I appreciate the opportunity today. I'm here on behalf of the Georgia Music Foundation, and I want to share with you a little bit briefly about our mission and what we do. But before I jump into that, I really do want to continue the shout-outs and bragging on Macon, Georgia. There's a lot going on now, and while you're here today, I've heard several of you allude to feeling like this is the Holy Land. There is an energy and excitement going on in this town right now. And I think that makes it that more valuable that you're here today. I've spent the majority of my career selling and marketing the state of Georgia through the lenses of music and place. I was here at the Georgia Music Hall of Fame for 12 or 13 years, and after that at the Georgia Department of Economic Development in the Film and Music Office and in the Tourism Office. And I've also spent a lot of time in the music cities of Nashville, Austin, and Los Angeles. And from my experience, there's truly a renaissance going on here in Macon. I just came back 9 months ago because it draws you in. And I've had so many artists and friends and travel writers come here, and people feel it. You know, the nighttime economy is booming. During the day, I mean, look at Capricorn. It's out of this world. And I think it's important just to look at what's happening. It's a great intersection of the past, present, and future, and it's the works and efforts of the public, private, and nonprofit sectors here that have made it work. The other piece, I think, is just Macon's music assets. There's an authenticity, a depth, and a diversity here that few communities can claim. And we've talked a lot about its world-renowned music history. I don't think you can ever overstate the impact that Macon, Georgia has had not only on American music, but on popular culture worldwide. If you go back to Little Richard Penniman, he changed the world. You know, music was kind of stiff back then. I mean, I love Perry Como and all that just the same, but Richard came and changed it up. And you mentioned that you love Elvis. If you saw the Elvis movie, if you ever watched the James Brown biopic, if you've ever read anything by the Beatles, about the Beatles coming up, they were all influenced by Little Richard from right here in Macon, Georgia. And so that you can say without Macon, rock and roll would not be what it is today. The same with soul music. I mean, Otis Redding, with that passion and emotion, he really exemplifies soul. And our friend Ray Charles down in Albany too, but Otis here in Macon has left an amazing legacy. You know, more than 50 years after his passing, I just heard a song in Top Gun. I mean, that kind of impact is amazing. And again, Southern rock. You know, Capricorn Records, what they did here, the community that they created, having the Allman Brothers Band launch themselves here, Marshall Tucker Band, Wet Willie, all of the music that was a part of Macon in the 70s. What an impact it's had. And today we see artists like Blackberry Smoke and Marcus King, who are Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi, all these amazing artists. It's the direct lineage from what happened right here in Macon, Georgia. And of course, I can't forget Jason Aldean, who's arguably one of the biggest country music entertainers and probably richest too in the entire industry. But he started out in Macon and was also influenced by all of those artists. And so because of that history, we have this series of music attractions that most communities can't claim, and they're interpreting that history and making it modern. Again, here at Capricorn, this is a place where they'll be nurturing new talent and recording music from here and far beyond. The Allman Brothers Band at the Big House, another incredible experience where people come from all over the world. It is Mecca, and it always will be. The Otis Redding Museum, incredible, over on Cotton Avenue. The Little Richard House, it was Little Richard's house. So we have those music attractions, but we also in Macon have live music. And you mentioned earlier Grant's Lounge, which is just kicking it. It's been here more than 50 years. You've got clubs like the Capitol Theater and JBA right across the street. You've got the larger venues like the Grand Opera House, Macon City Auditorium, and again, as Alex talked about, the forthcoming amphitheater. That's really going to add to that inventory of live music capacity. We talked a little bit about music, tourism, promotion, and product development, and we're lucky here to have Visit Macon, which is our destination marketing organization, and they are completely bought in. Their current strategic plan at the very top of their priorities is supporting the growth of Macon as a music city. They market, they invest, they partner, and they tell the stories. Music education. Macon is also a center of music education. From K through 12, we have some of the most amazing music teachers, and we always have. And between those music teachers and church, that's why so many of those artists that we talked about before were able to come out of Macon. You've heard about Mercer University's Townsend School of Music, the incredible McDuffie Center for Strings. There are excellent music programs at Wesleyan College and at Middle Georgia State University. You heard Julie talk about the Otis Center for the Arts, and that's going to be just a one-of-a-kind music education center that we hope can be replicable, at least programs where we can, take programs to other communities in Georgia. Small businesses, they're a big part of what's happening and always will be. Fresh Produce Records, to have a record store in your community and folks running that have a deep knowledge of music and can talk to you, that is so important. And the guys that have Fresh Produce Records, just less than a month ago, they moved to a bigger location, more visible on Cherry Street, and it is an amazing asset. And I urge you, soul jazz department, Southern Rock, use everything. They've got it there. So stop by there. Rock Candy Tours has been around for, I think, 11 years, and it is a walking music tour, really encompasses all of the history and all of the stories. It's entertaining. And finally, talent. Again, I don't have to say past, present, and future. That's all part of it here in Macon. Rock, hip-hop, soul, country, classical. And I also want to point out the amazing musical theater community here. This is such an active theater lovers and theater musicians, and especially the African-American vocalists and actors. The productions earlier this year of Ain't Misbehaving and The Color Purple would knock your socks off, and it proved that the talent is still here. Any one of those artists could be on Broadway, but having them here in Macon just makes that community even stronger. So that's my little love to Macon salute today. So the Georgia Music Foundation, it's a nonprofit. It was established here in Macon in 1994 to support programs of music education, preservation, and outreach. The foundation spent its first decade and a half as a partner to the Georgia Music Hall of Fame, supporting its collection and education programs. I'm sorry that Representative Smith split already, because I was going to tell him we also in 2006 partnered with the Center for Public History at the University of West Georgia. We endowed a graduate fellowship there for a graduate student to do a project on Georgia music history every year. So we've worked with them on that since 2006. After the Georgia Music Hall of Fame closed, it was important to our foundation board that they continue that mission to support programs and have a statewide impact. In 2015, we established the Georgia Music Grant, and that's a grant for music programs at K through 12 schools and for nonprofits that produce after-school and summer music camp programs. And since that time, we've given away nearly $600,000. Those grants are $5,000 or less from schools across the state, from programs like the Georgia Pick and Bow Traditional Music School in Dahlonega to last year in Brooks County, we did 5 grants for 5 different schools. And right now, we are taking grant applications through September 15th. So the grant amounts went down a little bit after COVID. It's back up to $5,000 or less this year. And we are working with the Department of Education, I think the Rural and Innovation Division, to make sure we try to get that word out to schools in rural Georgia. We always get lots of applications from Metro Atlanta and Savannah and some of those areas, but we really want to make sure that those opportunities and those dollars can be considered for rural Georgia. One of the things that we did during COVID, we raised an additional $75,000 to offer Georgia Music Relief Fund grants of $500 to musicians and technical crew members. And finally, as we talk about, it's not really an ask, but one of our advocacy pieces is music education is workforce development. Back in 2018, 2019, we have a wonderful board. Bo Henry, the great entrepreneur and musician from South Georgia. Dinah Gretsch, who is the CFO of Gretsch, the International Musical Instruments Company. Carla Redding Andrews. George Fontaine, whose family owns New West Records. One of your former colleagues, Ben Harbin, is on that board. And Russell Bennett, who is co-owner of Kindercore Vinyl, the vinyl manufacturing plant in Athens. And we would come to the board meetings, and generally before everything started, it would usually be somebody say, you know, I'm looking for a controller, or I'm looking for this, and I'm looking for that, but I just can't find anybody. Or if they do, they just don't have the skills, or they don't come to work on time, or, you know, any number of issues. And then I would bring up, well, as part of Department of Economic Development, we're hearing that across the state too, that a lot of Georgia's workforce could use better soft skills, those employability skills. And at some point, you know, the little light bulb went off and we started thinking that the characteristics we see develop among music students, discipline, initiative, teamwork, those are the exact same skills that employers are looking for. So there's an extensive body of research that supports the academic and cognitive benefits of music education. And we began looking for studies that would tell us if the skills that students acquire by participating in music correlate with those soft skills that employers want. And guess what? Resoundingly yes. I wanted to just give you a couple of examples. Work ethic, that's something everybody is looking for. Young musicians have to be highly disciplined. They have to be able to manage their time and prioritize. They have to be dependable, punctual, and demonstrate commitment. Young musicians, they have to have the ability to perform under pressure. Learning music demands the development of memory and concentration, and it prepares students to process information quickly and efficiently. They learn to make on-the-spot decision-making, concentrate on the task at hand, and recover quickly from mistakes. You hit a bad note, you got to keep going. And it's the same way in the workplace. Obviously, they learn teamwork and collaboration. If you're participating in band, orchestra, ensemble, or choir, you understand teamwork and collaboration, and you learn that your contribution impacts the whole. You learn to work in harmony with others. You learn to listen, to respect others, to step back when it's necessary, and by the same token, to step up when it's necessary. Young musicians, the study of musicians helps develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, innovation and creative thinking, and communication. Above all, music students learn to listen. And I think for any of us who have managed people, if people would just listen, it would make life a lot smoother. But music students learn to express themselves with clarity and confidence. They learn to accept and give constructive feedback. So as we look forward, you know, Georgia's an economic powerhouse, and I need not tell you all, you know, about being the #1 state to do business. But if we're going to keep up this aggressive track record, you know, and keep our competitive strength, our workforce having those soft skills is important. And we do have programs that begin later or in school or technical college. But if we could help impact kids from K through 12 and instill those soft skills through the study of music, I think it would be important in so many ways, not only for kids who determine they want to go into music, but it doesn't matter the industry. They'll have those fundamental soft skills. So I thank you all so much for your time.
Yes, please.
Thank you for your presentation. You said a lot of really, really important things that not only we should hear, but others. But what I really want to know is what's on your shirt.
It's The Allman Brothers Band.
Okay.
When you go, I think you all are going to the Big House today, and you can purchase these and many more designs and other great merch and music. So I came to support the cause.
And tell me your name again, because I don't see it
Lisa
on the list.
Love.
Yeah, I don't see that on this list. You have a card with you.
Yes, I sure do.
You please get it to me.
I absolutely will. Be happy to.
And for the record, can you let us know how someone may be able to apply for those grants that you're talking about?
That's
That would probably
Mike.
help.
Yes, it's
Well,
at
on a
georgiamusicfoundation.org. And we try to keep that application relatively simple because music teachers are our top target. So again, those will be accepted through September 15th. And I also want to note that part of that funding is coming from Gear 2, which was education grants as part of the ARPA fund. So I thank Governor Brian Kemp for that, and that'll be a big help.
And I think there's some grants from the Georgia Council of the Arts too, and I don't know how deep that goes, but that's something else you might want to explore.
Yeah, they're also a great source of grants to keep your eye on.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey, if it's okay with everybody, let's take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back at it, and we'll have the pleasure of hearing from Rob Evans, Larry Brumley, and Chuck Lavelle. So, smoke if you got it.
See what my painting my house is called. Texted me and called me.
Yeah, I'm gonna solve the water problem in summer.
We had a flood last night again.
Are you cold?
Let's get started back again. Everybody take their seats. Thank you again for being here. We appreciate it and have gotten such good information already. And you got somebody else, some new guy you want to introduce?
Yes, absolutely. So we have been joined by the illustrious Shaw Blackman, Chairman Shaw Blackman of the Ways and Means Committee.
Is that the committee that any tax incentives go through?
That's, or they go to die, one of the two.
All right. Okay, we're glad to be back, and thank you, Bob Evans, for being here. He's the chief engineer at Capricorn Sound Studio. Thank you, Bob. Rob.
Well, there's a Bob in the
Rob.
house, too. So Bob Conrad is our...
Sorry, I
manager.
apologize for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Bob right over there. All
We're
right.
a two-man team
I
here,
turned
so
up his Greg Allman tour album a minute ago.
We've answered to a lot worse names.
I apologize, I just can't see. Yeah, we all have, believe it or not, yeah.
You gotta bring the glasses. Where are the readers when you need them?
I can't find them. Anyway, go ahead, Rob.
Hi, everybody, and I'd like to say thank you and welcome to such distinguished guests here at Capricorn. We usually see all range of musicians and guests here, so it's a privilege to have you all in the house. Thank you. So just a brief bit about myself. I know lunch is already ready, so I'm going to make all this
quick. You take your time.
So my name is Rob Evans. I'm a chief engineer here at Capricorn. Music producer. Been recording. The first time I hit the record button, I was 16 years old. My first job when I got a driver's license, I went to the mall here in Macon. Got a job at a guitar shop that had a little studio in the back. And started learning recording. Got my own tape machine when I was 17. Played in high school bands, later at UGA, played in college bands. Started just honing the craft of recording. After touring around with different bands out of Athens. And
Now, what instrument you play in?
I play guitar.
In a marching band?
That's right.
Oh, is that right?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, rock bands.
I didn't think you looked like a piccolo player.
No, maybe tuba.
Sorry.
But yeah, after kind of dipping my feet in the water of music for a good while, came back to Macon, opened a studio in my basement of my house after being an entrepreneur and so many other things as well. Restaurateuring, stockbrokering, you name it. Came back here to run a food service company for my family, and just an entrepreneur since day one. I think I've only had a boss since I was maybe the first job when I was 16. So I'm here today as the operator of Capricorn Sound Studios. My company is Creek Media and Creek Media at Capricorn. So Creek Media was formed back in 2016 with my partners. We decided that we wanted to try to create a radio station here in Macon, and it's 100.9 The Creek. We're one of the first commercial-based Americana radio stations in America. We offer streaming worldwide, and we have an avid listenership all over the world. We are terrestrial-based here in the whole center of Georgia, so you can pick us up pretty well anytime you're in Macon, Warner Robins, or surrounding cities. So my love of music, live engineering, concerts led me into the radio business with my partners. We also do a live music series called Creek at Capricorn, which we host here. We bring artists to town for my partners' music venues. So I'm partners with Wes Griffith, who owns Rookery and H&H and several other restaurants here in town. Wes operates the historic Grants bar and restaurant, and he also operates Capitol Theater. So we bring in multi-tiers of artists to Macon, high touring bands, high-level touring bands to the theater, regional touring bands, and up-and-comers to Grant's Lounge. So back in the day, bands would come to Macon to play at Grant's Lounge to audition for Capricorn Records. And some didn't make it. Bands like The Police did not make it. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers didn't make a cut.
Wow.
So as you can imagine, the level of talent that must have been rolling through the door at Grant's. So we are still up to that venture. We're still bringing bands to town. We have bands that come, because we're playing them on the radio, they come and do performances here. They'll record something here at Capricorn. They'll do a live event for an audience in this very room, actually. We built this room to be a multi-purpose room not only for scoring strings for film, for having a live event. You'll see a PA above us and all this. We have a stage that comes in here, and we offer free concerts in this room for our community. We also offer ticketed concerts as well. So just a little bit about me. I've been at this for a little while, and I've been very lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And that seemed to be the course when Mercer offered this opportunity to me to become a consultant for their project in 2018 for the renovation of this building and to bring Capricorn back. So I, of course, how can I say no to that? And we spent a year on construction, planning, wiring, design, to get to where we are now. I had to twist some arms to cut holes in the brick over here and all that to create Studio B, which is a new studio here at Capricorn. So that gives us the multi-purpose use. We can have events in here. We can do this in here. We have the classic studio in the next side of this wall. So we can do a lot with this building at once. It's a 20,000 square foot facility. We have offices upstairs. We have 12 rehearsal rooms on the end of the building called our incubator for up and coming talent. And we have our museum upstairs as well. So I've been very lucky to oversee this project for Mercer, and without their partnership, this would never happen. So my gratitude for that. So currently our studio is a state-of-the-art facility. It's one of the finest in the country or in the world. We renovated Capricorn back to, really, this room took more work than the classic studio did because the roofing above that side of the building was so good, it was intact. So really just rewiring and re-equipping the studio. We had a custom console built just for Capricorn that mimics and has some of the same componentry as the original console. So it sounds like Capricorn. We still use reverb chambers in the basement, just like Capricorn did. It's a very old way of doing things, but that's why it sounds so good. We work on all types of different music here. It's not just Southern rock, and we want to make sure that people know that. We do anything from classical, hip-hop, to rap, to, the only thing I haven't done in this building yet is reggae. So hopefully we'll get that going too. But it runs all over the gamut. We have current projects going on right now with what we feel like are up-and-coming bands that could do well. One project, a guy out of Atlanta, we may have heard of Eddie Ninebull. So Eddie is about to release his Live from Capricorn album. We have multiple albums in the works, as we always do here. And we have been fortunate to have an international scope and a good reach of musicians from lots of different states here. I think we've reached 15 different states of bands coming to Capricorn to record. We've also reached out to, I believe it's 5 other countries, 3 other countries, well, Brussels, UK, Spain, and France, that we have worked on projects through the internet. We'll send tracks back and forth. Thanks to Mr. Chuck Lavelle, who brings a lot of those projects to us here and has international attention. So we also work on community-based philanthropy a little bit. We try to help our community. We are partners with the 478 Sings projects for United Way, which is basically a contest of songwriters and singers, internet-based, lots of applicants, and people vote for their favorite artist, and the artist gets to come here and record. The first year this was done, it raised $88,000 for our local United Way, and it's been successful in years since. We've also worked on COVID relief, Grammy Foundation projects that were also to help those musicians out of work during quarantine times. We also do projects for the Georgia Music Foundation, Lisa Love's organization, where they can hold their award ceremonies here during COVID. We work with Skydog, which is a local festival tribute to the Allman Brothers Band. So we do, each year, we're going to do our second one now, but we recreate an Allman Brothers project. And the proceeds of that go to Daybreak, which is our local homeless shelter. So that's been very successful, and we're happy to help our community in those ways. We also do, with Creek Media and Creek Radio, my other project, we offer a song contest that the winner gets to come here and record as well. So we're always trying to find an outreach to our community, but we're entrepreneurs. We're here to actually make this profitable go. So Mercer, of course, is a nonprofit. We are a for-profit entity that manages Capricorn for Mercer. So we are here to try to make a go of it and to do well as a business and as stewards of our community, and to make sure we're on the up and up for, what we're trying to do. The things that I think could be helpful as a studio operator and owner, we're very lucky to have the partnership with Mercer, so we get a lot of marketing from Mercer and their assistance in marketing what we're doing. And Capricorn came out with a big press release that, we've been on the national press level for a little while now with feature articles in Sound on Sound magazine, Rolling Stone. Several, we've reached some newspapers across the country, so we've been very lucky with that regard. But there are things that I feel that maybe we could capitalize on. And one would be lowering the thresholds for music-based projects. Right now, I think they're pretty high. We're hoping that these projects could get lowered down to $50,000 level or so that, in a course of a year, we could probably we'd easily hit that number for all the different projects that we do here. But I think when you look at the average cost of what it costs an independent band to make a record, the business has changed a lot. You can make a record at home in your bedroom. Whether it would be a great record, maybe, depends on who you are and how you did it, and if you're the next big thing. But coming to an iconic studio like this and having an engineer, a producer, having a room full of equipment that's included as house gear, you have a world of resources at your fingertips. So we argue that there's still a major cause for coming to places like this to record where your icon's recorded, to relive a moment of history, out of nostalgia, and also out of the fact that the equipment here is second to none. So, but the things we feel like might help the independent artists is to lower this threshold down. So we noticed recently in Muscle Shoals, they created a local-based tax incentive that was multi-tiered, and it's all for the Muscle Shoals, Florence, Alabama community. I think it's done through their Urban Development Authority or something to that nature, where, say for a $5,000 to $10,000 project, you'd get maybe 10 or 20% tax incentive returned. And those tiers go up and up, and the higher you go up, I think over 100,000, they may do 30% or so. Something like that. I know it's not necessarily on the state level, but maybe there's a way that it could be. I don't know. They're looking at it on a localized level. And the other thing, I agree with everyone so far on the thought of having a music commissioner, someone state level, who is stewarding music projects, stoking the fire for keeping these things happening. When we first worked on this room, we thought, well, let's make sure that this room is appropriate for scoring for strings. And this room sounds amazing for strings. We were talking about the Sinatra project earlier. That was recorded. Some of those songs were recorded in this room with the strings in here because of the reflective nature of the way the walls are set up. So we think that having a commissioner out there stoking those fires and hopefully keeping some of the money that is in the film industry that goes back to California where the music scores are done, instead, let's have that stuff done here in Georgia. And those are the things that I think could be beneficial as a studio operator, and I'm sure you might have some questions for me.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
Okay. You're doing a lot of worldwide stuff and also nationwide. Is there some way that you think you guys can reach more to the rural Georgia areas instead of like duplicating this all over the state in a sense? Because we want the foundation of heritage to be back here where it is. But there are other local independent labels. There are other venues, smaller venues that have live guys, playing every weekend. But I'm just wondering, that would be something I think would benefit. They have a big contest throughout Georgia, rural Georgia area, and say, look, here's an opportunity to come to, Capricorn. I think that can help cultivate what we have in Georgia as well, and give these rural areas an incentive, to say, hey, look, we can go to Macon. We don't have to go to California or anywhere else. We have it here in Macon, Georgia. It's closer.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And maybe that's something marketed on a statewide level that we could use a little help with. But yeah, in a way, you can model it after the 478 Sings, which is all an internet-based contest. So you can have an outreach of, whatever. It's 478 because that's our local zip code, and that's our, working on Central Georgia specifically. But that program has grown beyond this area. It's also now in Florida and in other states as well. But yes, I think there's more that can be done for rural outreach. And as far as we go, we're trying to market the studio using social media, which hopefully, that's available in the most rural areas of Georgia these days. And hopefully we're getting our message out there.
Any other question, Senator Butler?
Just want to know how Capricorn got its name.
Well, Capricorn was the astrological sign for both Phil Walton and for Frank Fentner. And so that is why it's called Capricorn. Originally, this building was bought by Red Wall Entertainment, which was a partnership between the Waldens and Otis Redding. So Red Wall. This was going to be Otis Redding's studio, and unfortunately Otis perished before he could ever record here. So he died in '67. They opened the studio in '69, and they needed a little time to regroup and figure out what they were going to do, because that was a pretty terrible shock to Otis's plans, to the Walden's plans, and they really didn't know what to do. But hopefully that answers your question. Good
Yeah, I'm a
question.
Capricorn too.
Oh, well, very good. And you'll see our sign back here. That was created in 1969. It's acrylic layers been built there. Left the building for a long time, and under the restoration came back, and it's right back where it lived back in the old days.
Senator Goodman?
Yes, sir. I was just going to ask, with your media company, have you ever considered in some of these places like Grant Lounge, some of these music venues, have you ever thought about setting up where you've got a live camera there and it's tied into the music and you can sell subscriptions? Because I would buy something like that.
Yeah, we've just signed a deal with Mandolin, which is a streaming company. You'll notice camera mounts inside this room. There's 4 in this room. There's 4 in the other room. Then we have these cameras, pan-tilt zoom cameras. They're tripod-based. And the reason we did all this was just for that reason. So the venues will have their mounts put in soon, that we just use the tripods there. But we have an arrangement with Mandolin, which is a streaming service and online subscription service for concerts. And that's our next thing here. If we do a stream for free, then it doesn't have to go through Mandolin. But with our arrangement, when there's a for-profit stream, something like a concert we want to sell tickets to, we have that arrangement set up. Yeah.
Anyone else? Hey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And
you.
also, if anybody has any suggestions of what we could do to improve things or to help promote the music industry, please let us know. I mean, send it to us.
Well, thank you. I think being here and listening is
So
a
when
huge
Russ
step in
and,
all that.
and Casey create legislation, they'll have all your ideas available.
The big question, I guess, is does Shaw Blackman advertise on the 100.9 radio station? And if you can send us the outtakes, that'd be fantastic.
We'll send you a
I
card. You can get
promise
those
I won't
ads
play 'em
going.
ever again.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're next.
Oh, I am next, all right. Mr. Larry Brumley, come on down.
Thank you for letting us be at Mercer University at Capricorn.
Thank you. No, we're glad to have you, and I'm very cognizant of, I'm the last one between you all and hearing from the great Chuck Lavelle.
That's right.
So I'll keep my remark, a lot of what I was prepared to talk with you about has already been covered, so I can get through this quicker. But let me add my word of welcome to you to Macon and to Mercer Music at Capricorn. And President Underwood sends his regrets for not being here, but he is on a long-scheduled out-of-state fundraising trip. You all understand fundraising, don't you? So this was his vision to do this project, and his motivation was economic development for Macon. And he came to me one day and he said, get this done. And so over several years, worked on this, and raised the money, $4.7 million, to do this project from 350 donors, from $25 up to $1 million plus. And it was an incredible groundswell of support for seeing this facility come back online. But I appreciate the opportunity to share with you a few important music initiatives that Mercer University is involved with. I'm not a musician, I'm a bureaucrat. But that puts me at the intersection of some of these music projects that are so vital to our community in the state of Georgia. Among Mercer's 12 academic units is the Townsend School of Music, which is a small but elite music school with about 100 majors. It's known mainly for its choral program and for the aforementioned McDuffie Center for Strings. Its graduates go on to perform in the greatest symphony orchestras in this country and operas, and to go on to graduate schools at Eastman and Juilliard and the great graduate music programs in the state. But they also graduate and go and serve as K through 12 music teachers in our schools across the state, and they serve on church music staffs at churches across our state. So Mercer has a long legacy in music. It's not a huge program, but the students who come out are very, very high quality. Last March, the McDuffie Center for Strings joined its founder, internationally renowned violinist Robert McDuffie, along with Mr. Chuck Lavelle and Mike Mills, a founding member of the band REM, which you probably have heard of. And they came together with our students from our strings program to perform a night of Georgia music at Macon's historic Grand Opera House downtown, which Mercer also operates. And Bobby and Mike, I might note, grew up together here in Macon. There are two Macon products. And of course, Chuck is a longtime resident of Middle Georgia and a tree farmer here. And so those three artists came together with our students, and they performed some of Georgia's most iconic songs, made famous by the likes of Otis Redding and Allman Brothers Band and Gladys Knight and REM and others. That concert was taped for public television and premiered on GPB on July 4th. I hope some of you saw that on GPB July 4th. They will be re-airing it if you didn't. But in early next year, that show will be distributed nationally to PBS stations across the country, and it will showcase Georgia's rich music heritage and talent. So that is one project that we're excited about that is going to elevate Georgia across the nation and showcase our talent. Another attribute of Mercer's music school is its reputation for innovation, and innovation is not something you often hear associated with music education. But in 2017, Macon's Symphony Orchestra ceased operations because of financial constraints. It's a scenario that's played out in small and medium-sized cities across our country over the last many years. And in February 2021, Mercer announced a major grant from the Peyton Anderson Foundation, which is based here in Macon, to fund a unique collaboration between the McDuffie Center for Strings and with musicians from the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. This collaboration, I'm pleased to say, yielded an inaugural season last year of 4 concerts, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, that exceeded ambitious ticket sales and revenue goals with 90% plus audiences at those 4 performances. So there was great anticipation and demand for bringing this orchestra back to Macon. The professional ASO musicians, who are composed from principals from the orchestra's woodwind, percussion, and brass sections, mentor our string students, who are already recognized as some of the most talented young strings musicians in the world, and they literally come from all over the world to study here. And together, they perform standard pieces by essential classical composers, as well as work by a wide range of contemporary composers from diverse backgrounds, reflecting the true breadth and depth of symphonic music today. So that is an example of how we got creative. How do we replace the symphony orchestra that the community lost? And the response from the community has been very, very positive. The 2022-23 season kicks off next month, and it will kick off with a performance that's conducted by Roddick Cox, who is the Macon-born superstar conductor who's garnering worldwide attention. Roderick is an alum of the Otis Redding Foundation's Dream Music Camp. Was raised here in Macon, came through Otis Redding Foundation's camp, and has gone on to just set the world on fire. He's an amazing conductor. He's conducted some of the finest symphony orchestras in the world. He currently lives in Berlin, but he's going to come back to conduct the Macon Mercer Symphony Orchestra next month, and it'll be a treat to welcome back to Macon one of our own products who's bringing international acclaim to our community and the state. And finally, I can't leave without talking about Capricorn. You've already heard a lot about this. This is widely regarded as the birthplace of Southern rock, and this historic studio was brought back to leverage Macon's music heritage to create Macon's music future. Yes, there is an element about the past here that inspires the present and the future, but this really is a forward-looking project that was really designed and was President Underwood's vision to leverage this asset for Macon's music future, and that's what we're doing today. In addition to the original historic studio, which you've heard mentioned, we added the second studio. Rob talked about that, and we hope someday to have some film scoring projects here. You've heard that addressed previously, but this room was designed with that in mind as a potential for using this great facility. The music incubator, that was really the original idea that President Underwood had, that he wanted to create a space downtown where young musicians, aspiring musicians, could collaborate, and perhaps the next Otis Redding or Allman Brothers band could come out of that. And so we were looking for space downtown to create this incubator, and then this Capricorn project. I could spend all day telling you about how this came together because it's a long, winding road. But this music incubator, there are 12 rehearsal rooms in the original building that Rob talked about that Redwall bought for Otis Redding's studio. That building has 12 rehearsal rooms, 6 on the first floor and 6 on the second floor, and musicians rent these rooms by the month. They have 24/7 access to it. They can come any time of the day and night, and they do. And they do their thing, their craft, their music. They practice it, they collaborate with each other, and that's what that facility was purposed for, was to give these musicians a place where, their parents or their spouses don't like them playing the drums in their basement at home. It's too loud. So they can come down here and make all the noise they want to, and nobody cares. So it's been a great success. The rooms are full. There's a waiting list for them. We have some turnover, but the rooms stay rented all the time. They're full. And if you have a chance to go over there before you leave, you'll probably hear some music coming from some of those rooms. So that's an important part of Capricorn. And another part that was mentioned was the museum that tells the story of Capricorn. And Lisa touched on this. The impact of Capricorn worldwide is, most people do not grasp the influence that Capricorn had on popular culture, not just in this country, but around the world. As I've worked on this project over the last several years, I've learned that the Allman Brothers Band and Otis Redding were probably even more popular in Europe than they were in the U.S. And although the museum's visitation has been impacted by the pandemic, we opened the museum 2 months before the pandemic hit. Even with that suppressing travel, we have had visitors through the museum from 43 states, the District of Columbia, and 17 foreign countries. I've seen people come into that museum from other countries and stand there with tears running down their cheeks because of the impact that music had on their lives. So the museum piece of it is a important component of telling this story, and it inspires also the present-day musicians and future musicians to kind of cast a vision for what's possible for them here. So it's part inspiration, it's part cultural tourism. Another aspect of Capricorn's mission is providing professional development opportunities for musicians. Later this month, Mercer Music at Capricorn will host 7 independent singer-songwriters from across the country who will write and perform their original songs during a songwriters round that's open to all songwriters. And then next February, we'll host a conference to help equip artists with tools to be successful in the music business. It'll feature speakers from across the country who will lead sessions on music entrepreneurship, sound techniques, recording, songwriting, how to get published, booking, management, and scoring music for film and video. Those kinds of professional development opportunities we plan to do in the future and bring in top-notch speakers to help musicians from this area take their craft and make it a profession and something that they can generate a living from. So that, is in a package is what Capricorn is about. So I've just hit the highlights, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have. But this is how Mercer is contributing to the music ecosystem of Macon and Georgia. Just a few highlights.
What's the date on the concert?
The songwriting?
No.
Oh.
The
Night of Georgia Music.
Yeah.
GPB has not yet told us when they're going to reschedule that. They're going to schedule another airing, and we won't know the dates for the other stations until early next year when they start distributing it nationally. We have to market the show station by station, state by state, and then you'll generate carriage and then send out, through social media information about where it'll be aired. But GPB's told us they will air it again this fall at some point. They just have not given us a date.
I'm excited about this. I mean, I want to be the commissioner for Georgia. I want that job. No, but
I got you penciled in.
Gentlemen, thank you. Do y'all have field trips for Capricorn, the studio, through the high schools? Because you have field trips, some kids get inspired. And,
We do.
you have something like that?
Bob gives these tours, and he's had some tour groups from schools come through here.
Yeah, we give plenty of field trips from all ages, K through 12. The youngest kids all the way up to music majors. Yeah, and we definitely tailor our field trips to the music groups so that we can get as much out of their experience as possible.
Okay. Thank you. Awesome.
Any other questions?
And if any of you all could stay around, I'll be happy to show you around afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting us
Thank
be
you.
here today.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a musician, a member of the Rolling Stones since 1982, the Allman Brothers Band he's played with, Greg Allman, Lavelle. He's an entrepreneur, he's a tree farmer, he's an inductee and member of the Georgia Music Hall of Fame, Mr. Chuck Lavelle.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I mean this so sincerely for coming down here. This is so cool that you would want to come to Macon and in this particular building that means so much to me personally. I'll tell you what, I'll get emotional talking about it because we've made a lot of records in this place, and it's got a very special place in my heart. So thank you for being here. And thank you for your interest in this subject matter, because it's very, very important as a musician, as a producer, as a performer, to see the state of Georgia wanting to attract more and more music here. Listen, you've heard all the data, and as we say in the business, these are hard acts to follow. Steve just gave an eloquent speech of what we're doing here in Macon, as Lisa did, and of course Larry filled in what Mercer's doing, and everyone has spoken very eloquently. I don't think I can add really any more numbers or figures or data, so maybe I can just kind of be the exclamation point.
Well, they were the warm-up group.
I'm the headliner, huh? But no, you've heard everything that you need to hear, I think, in terms of why we need to have this bill. It's so very important. And so thank you again for being here. And, I just finished a tour with the Rolling Stones in Europe a little over a month ago. So I guess you could say I'm currently unemployed now. Back to tree farming for a little while. But a lot has been said about the history of music here in Macon and throughout Georgia. I will tell you that I just came 3 days ago from a festival in Indianapolis, Indiana, where I was in charge of putting together what they called a Allman Brothers Band dream set. And it was a really fun experience. Dickie Betts' son, Dwayne Betts, was my co-musical director and just did a beautiful job. And he plays like his dad, but he's his own man, and he's absolutely a brilliant musician. I'm so glad to see that tradition carry on in that family. And so, it's nice to know that the music has stood the test of time. Some of the music that we've recorded right here at Capricorn, and some of the music that I've been able to work with other artists. And to name a few of those, the Allmans have been mentioned, the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton I worked with for a couple of years, John Mayer, I worked with 2 records with John. Eric Church is a good friend and was kind enough to make some comments on my documentary, which is called The Tree Man, by the way. And let's see, David Gilmour. And so people say, Chuck, how do you get all these gigs with all these different artists? And the answer is pretty simple. I work cheap. No, but I've had some amazing, amazing experience that I am just absolutely grateful for. Some of the highlights of what I think we need to do is already been discussed in this bill, but to increase the base credit of 15% to 30% of the income tax credit. Look, all of these figures, we know the competition, right? We know what's happening in Pennsylvania, what's happening in Louisiana, Tennessee. The point is we need to at least get even with those guys. We're not even with them now. If we can, or surpass, then I think we can get the attraction. Now, I can't guarantee you that Mick Jagger will bring the Rolling Stones to Georgia with these incentives, but I'll tell you one thing, I can guarantee you you'll get his attention. And, don't forget, he went to the London School of Economics when he was a young fellow. So all of these managers, the individuals that pay, the musicians and performers that pay a lot of attention to the business, are looking at these incentives. They're looking at them very closely. And you're going to attract all manner of performers, whether it's country, rock, it doesn't matter. You're going to attract all of them if we can get this bill passed and if we can put these incentives in place. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Look, Louisiana gets a lot, I think probably mainly because of New Orleans. It's such a great city. But we have Atlanta, we have Macon, we have Athens, we have Savannah. We see what has happened with the film business. It's undeniable. And, even I got to be in a film. Billy Bob Thornton is a friend of mine, and he called me up and he said, I'm coming to Georgia and I'm doing a film. I need a band. And he gave me a very detailed description of what he needed. And so I put the band together, and they auditioned for Billy, and Billy said, man, this is great. I love everything, and they were mostly all young people, by the way. And Billy said, but we don't have a keyboard player, and sometimes these young bands, they'll have like an older uncle. Would you like to be the older uncle? Yeah, man, I'll do that. So he put me in the film, and then he said, and by the way, you got one scene, you can speak a line. It's only one line, but you get to speak it to Robert Duvall. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Wow. And but the point being that the film industry is attracting so much business here in the state. It's unbelievable. Rose Lane and I have a second home in Savannah, and every time we go down there, the streets are blocked off where they're filming. And again, we just need to get even with that with that incentive to get musicians and performers and artists down here. I'll make one more point, and that is about this music office or commissioner. Absolutely, essentially important. We have to have this, because if you're not making that outreach, how are these managers, how are these booking agencies, how are these performers going to know these incentives exist? You got to have somebody. I'm privileged to have a little television program called America's Forests. We've been doing this for about 7 years now. We have filmed 10 episodes. And along the way, we hired a stations relations representative, the equivalent of what we're talking about in this. Our numbers went triple, quadruple by having someone on that telephone making calls, sending emails, and saying, you got to watch this show. You're going to want it. And so that is why we need that person or committee or whatever it turns out to be, but or 2 or 3 people working together, whatever. But the outreach is so very, very important to get done. And the contacts are there. We know how to get in touch with every artist manager or their booking agencies. But to just keep hammering it and saying, you guys got to come to Georgia. The incentives are incredible. It's a great state. You're going to love the cities, whatever city they pick. So let's get that done. And as I mentioned, the exclamation point, the sentence that comes before that is, ladies and gentlemen, please let's get this done. So with that, I'll take any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah.
And let me say this, the movie industry took about 3 different bills in several years to get right. And Senator Butler and I were kind of pioneers of that. Now, I'm saying that with my age, but with her, she was just new in the legislature.
But I voted for it.
That's right. And it took us 3 years to become what we are now.
Right.
And the 100,000 jobs that were created are Georgia jobs.
Yes,
And that'd be the same here.
absolutely.
Now, we're a little stuck in the mud on this bill that we did a few years ago. It needs to be pushed, and it
Yes.
wasn't.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can do that for here, and thank you. Because speaking of pioneers, not because of age, but you were in that. I think we talked at a Music Hall of Fame event many years ago, and you mentioned this to me, and we kind of started from that point, and with a lot of help out here too. But thank you for all you
Well,
do.
listen, and with that comment, I remember that event, working with you, Senator, and you've really taken this task on, and thank you so much for doing that. I know it's in your heart and soul, and
You've been
it's
part
in
of
my
the
heart
team.
and soul, too.
Ah, it sounds like a good song title. Anybody?
I gotta have one question.
Yeah,
all right?
please, I mean,
Got
Before
inside.
you leave, I
You're the
want to get
book-
a photo with you.
Great
Some of that
picture.
side and some of the others.
I'll be glad to do photos with
but if you
anyone.
wouldn't mind writing this down and send it to us too, so, you know, what you think we ought to do would be great.
Yes, yes. Well, I think all the particulars have been mentioned, but I will be very glad to do that
Yeah,
and to
because
send in.
we have lost so many stars
Yeah.
to Nashville and other places.
Yes.
And if Georgia can be the #1 place to do business and the #1 place to
Yeah.
have films, we can do the same thing with music.
And what Steve mentioned, and I think Larry as well, about getting the scores for
Oh, yeah.
music. You know, I just wrote a theme for a documentary that's oddly enough about the first NFL football game ever played, which was in near Dayton, Ohio, at a place called Triangle Park. And so the theme is written, but I need orchestration. This is the perfect room to do it. We have the Mercer, Bobby's students that could perform the orchestration, and more films and documentaries could be scored here if the incentives are in place.
Anyone else? Thank you for your
Thank
great
you.
career here. I certainly appreciate you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
You have anything, Mr. Chairman?
Nope, I'm just glad to be here.
All right. Well, I want, on behalf of all of us, I'd like to thank some people. First off, thank you for all the presenters, the speakers. We need that, and thank you for being here. Thank you for the legislators, the House members, and Senate members for being here. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter, for being a leader in this effort. Hey, I wrote all this down, okay?
How do you read that?
I
Sorry.
can't. I called Rob Bob and Bob Rob, so. Thank you, Mala Sharman. I mean, she is the one that's spearheading this, and I'm grateful. And Brian Hudson and Larry Brumley with Mercer University at Capricorn for letting us be here. Chairman Casey Carpenter, Mercer's own Hugh Sosby. Thank you, Hugh, for putting up with me all these years. And please give our regards to President Bill Underwood for letting us be here and his vision here as well. Let's see. My brother Jerry Mullis, he knows all my secrets, so don't ask him anything. Carla Redding, who was hopefully to be here, and she couldn't make it, but we appreciate her contribution. And of course, Otis Redding itself. Who have I missed?
Jesus Christ.
No, also.
Protected us on our way down.
Brent Churchwell, Senate Budget, Andrew Allison, Senate Press Office, Haley Williams, Senate Research Office, Stuart Morelli, Legislative Counsel, Brock Perry with House Budget and Research Office, Paige Thurhune, my Administrative Assistant, Kaylee Maxwell, and I think I got everybody. So thank you very much for being, Mala. I said Mala first. But thank you, Hugh, because I'm getting old. I can't remember anything. Yeah, me either. Well, I used to lay down in my room with my speakers between my head. I mean, on each other, listening to Sea Level and Allman Brothers and Grand Funk Railroad and let's see, Humble Pie, and I could go on forever. But thank you so much for being here. We want this to mean something. We want this to have some fruit at the end, and these people are going to help get us there. So Without any further ado, I think we're going to, the members and staff and others are going to have lunch, take a tour, see the classic studio, and then we're going to the big house, where I need to tell you a story before I leave. When they had a concert at the Music Hall of Fame, and Greg Allman and the Capricorn, what were they called?
Capricorn Rhythm Section.
That's it. And they were performing, and I got to go to the big house with my brother, and the guy said, "Hey, Greg Allman will be here in 5 minutes." I go, "Really?" I said, "Should I tell him I named my son after him?" He goes, "No, I don't think I would." So when Greg got here, I put my arm around him. I said, "Hey, I named my son after you." He goes, "Hey, man, I'm honored." So, you know, what can I say?
And then he said, "Get your arm off of me."
Anyway, so thank you very much, and I think our next place will be in Athens, Georgia. We got to work out the details, and so we'll hope to see you soon. And please stay tuned, and don't change that dial. Be right back after this. Have a good day. Thank you.
Do you have the